Do that to us. You're in Florida, picking on us.
Haven't been there yet this year.
Did I make good martinis in Florida?
I hope so. We probably could make one at the Attica Hotel if you're interested.
You're on.
Thank
We're
you.
all set?
Yeah.
Yep.
And we're on YouTube. All right. All right. Let me just do a roll call. Becky Ryan,
Here.
Doug Burwanger.
Here.
All right. And I understand that Jim Ratowski will be unable to come today. Is that right?
Yeah, I spoke with Jim early this morning. He got called out by a couple of large businesses to do some on-site testing.
Thank you very much.
Joe Gazowski,
Oh, here.
Jim Hardy.
Here,
Who did I miss?
By a couple of large businesses to do some on-site
Tom McCormick's here.
Oh, Tom, I'm sorry, Tom.
Yep, I'm here.
I can see.
You don't see me.
You don't have a picture. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, I have a problem with my camera, but I can still be at the meeting.
Sure. Okay. So we have a quorum. And also in attendance, we have Robin, Jennifer, Jim, Bill, and Kevin. Is that correct? Anybody else I'm missing? Okay.
Yeah, I have a problem with my camera, but I can still be at the meeting.
Sure. Okay. All right, I think we have a quorum and I will call the meeting to order. Also in attendance, we have am I getting an echo here?
I hear the same thing.
Okay. All right, I think we have a quorum and I will call the meeting to order. Also in attendance, we have am I getting an echo here?
Yeah, I'm not sure how to fix that.
I hear the same thing.
If someone's watching on YouTube, I think YouTube runs behind the actual Zoom. So if you turn your volume down on the YouTube feed, I think that's what we're hearing.
How is it now? Yeah, I'm not sure how to fix that.
No, we're still getting something that was said a minute or two before.
If someone's watching on YouTube, I think YouTube runs behind the actual Zoom. So if you turn your volume down on the YouTube feed, I think that's what we're hearing.
How is it now? Yeah, I'm not sure how to fix that.
We're still getting something that was said a minute or two before.
The question is, who's got the Zoom feed on? I mean, the YouTube feed on.
I do, but my volume's down, so I can't hear it in my office here, so it's not coming from here.
And we have everybody mute their microphones.
I don't know why we're getting all that feedback.
The question is, who's got the Zoom feed on? I mean, the YouTube feed on.
We have everybody mute their microphone.
here, as long as you want to whisper. Yeah.
I can't hear anything now.
You can't.
I think it's because of the YouTube, but. Having a problem with the audio getting like double feed.
I don't know, speakers.
You don't have the microphone on, right? You're just using this?
Right, just, I got my computer audio on.
Was there another box for him to check
Check?
inside when we turn that on?
No, because it wasn't doing it earlier. And it, when you talk,
Everybody's getting echo. Kevin says you gotta turn the microphone off on the YouTube feed.
oh, you can't be running the YouTube video while you're doing it because you're broadcasting to yourself.
Okay, take a look and see if I don't.
I'm just gonna touch your mouse. You need to, do you have the YouTube feed open somewhere?
It's live right now.
Right, where is it? Here? This one, right?
You can't be running the YouTube video while you're doing it.
Mute it. And then turn those up.
Okay.
And then we'll minimize that. And let's just, can you hear everybody?
Hello, can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, no more echo?
Well, to take the echo was very long. It was a very big canyon. Took a long time for it to.
Well, we crawled up out of it. We should be good to go. Whoa.
Okay.
Thank you, Scott.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
There you go. You resume your meeting.
Okay,
All right, I apologize for that.
we're fine.
It's Scott's a jack of all trades, so. Yes, please.
Okay, our first order of business then is to,
It's good.
Yeah, you don't have to.
review the board minutes from October 8th, 2020. And I think everybody has had an opportunity to review those. Are there any additions or corrections? All right. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion. And if you're making the motion, please just state your name and the same for the second. And then instead of going aye or nay, I'll simply ask if anybody has a nay vote, which is usually pretty rare. And if hearing none, I'll just,
Joe Kozlowski, move as written.
I'm sorry?
Joe Kozlowski, move the minutes as written.
Well, thank you. And a second? With
Doug Berwanger, I'll second it.
All right. Does anybody have a nay vote on that motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved, or the motion to approve is carried. Okay. Our next is the same review for the months of both October and November of the financial report. Are there any additions or corrections? And if not, I'll ask Robin to give us any highlights that she thinks is appropriate.
Okay. We didn't have anything out of the ordinary. For October, we just had our normal expenses, normal payroll. I won't go into too much with October as far as the budget because we're going to look at November's anyways. And then, so then if you go on over to November's, we earned some fees in. It was a partial payment on fees in November for the Orangeville battery storage project is moving forward. They were looking for their sales tax abatement, so that portion, we billed them the 1% fee based on the sales tax incentive that they'll be getting. So that's what the fee is there that we earn. We had our normal expenses. The fringe benefits you'll see looks high on the under expenses, but that's the payment, the yearly payment to the New York State Retirement Fund. We ended up the month with $2,576,710 in the bank. And looking over at our budget, of course, with the COVID, there's some things that we are lower on than what we had expected, and then there's a few things that we're right on target with. And I'll open up to any questions or answer any questions if anybody has any.
I'm on Zoom. No, I'm on.
Oh, you're on? Okay. I didn't know if you were still in time or you were late.
Well, that's it for the report.
All right. Are there any additions or corrections? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the financial reports for October and November of 2020.
Mr. Chairman. Joe,
Yes, sir.
for you. Just a question. I'm looking under invested funds. I thought we had some of the invested funds in the Bank of Castile. It's just listed 5-star and Stu Ben.
Yeah, we did. I believe we moved some around because of the interest rates that we were getting. So we moved them around, and every 2 months, 3 months, or 6 months, however they come due or when they mature, we always look at the best rates we can get, and we move them around. If we do have in our checking account is still through the Bank of Castile. It's the CDs that right now are all in other banks, but that could change once we get to the, when they start maturing, and we can move them into better rates.
Don't mind me, just the last question, Joe G. What is the best rate we're getting as of today?
I'm not sure. Jen, do you remember what the rate is on?
Yeah, so which account are you looking at? Because they're all staggered for different terms.
No, you want to know which one had the best rate.
Right now, the best rate we have is 0.25%, and that will mature on January 19th of 2021, and that's through 5-star for the 300,000. Rates now have dropped down to 0.13% for CDs.
End of conversation.
He's gonna give Uncle Joe a heart attack here. He's counting his money.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the financial reports for October and November. Do I have that motion?
So moved. This is Becky Ryan.
And a second?
I'll second it, Jim Hardy.
All right. Is there anybody who has a no vote on that motion? All right, the motion is carried. Now, Jim Pierce, could you explain to us the next action item 4A involving silver locking?
Yeah, let me open this up. I think everyone received this. So when Silver Lock-in was approved for their project, they were also pre-approved by the planning board for several of these little mini camping units, the mobile ones. Quite frankly, for him to buy all that he was permitted to put on site was going to be too costly. And so he's been buying them gradually, and he needs another year of the sales tax exemption so we can fully put in the units that he has been approved for locally. So what he is asking for is a sales tax extension for another year that would end on December 31st, 2021.
Does anybody have any comment or question involving that request? If
Chairman,
not, go ahead.
my opinion is, due to the COVID thing, I'm gonna make the motion to move this for the year.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second that, Becky Ryan.
All right, is there anyone who opposes the motion? All right, the motion is carried. And action item B, I think is self-explanatory, but Jim, I'll let you go through it.
Yeah, every year we have to have an audit. And this time they've already actually started doing some little bit of work. But in order to fully engage the audit, we need a authorization of a letter of engagement that would allow the work to move forward. And the proposal is from Freed Maxick, as it has been the last few years. And the cost of the audit is going to be $10,300 compared to what you can see was the fee last year.
If my memory is correct, we discussed this last year, and I think the consensus was, if I remember correctly, that it was not wise, at least, to change auditors midstream. We felt that the cost would be greater if a new auditor came in and had to familiarize itself, or him or herself, with the kind of complicated situation we have here.
That's correct. And not to mention, they do all three organizations. So they do the IDA, the Business Assistance Corporation, and the Business Center, which are all administered by the IDA. So it is a little bit of a complex web, if you will.
All right. Are there any questions or any discussion on approval of the proposed fee? If not, I'll entertain a motion to make that authorization. Do I have such a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Tom.
All right. Is there any member that has a no vote on that proposal? If not, the motion is carried. All right, our next item is under 5A. And once again, I'll turn to Jim to tell us about the Attica developers request.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had been contacted by a developer in Attica who has been having some discussions with the folks from the Wyoming County Community Health System about the possibility of building a medical clinic in the village of Attica, and was looking to see if it would qualify for IDA incentives. I conferred with the council, and I think we determined that this type of use, being that it was going to be medical services, is really a retail and not really eligible for IDA help unless they were going to be providing services that are not considered to be available locally in Attica. And it's well known that Attica already has a medical facility in the village. So, I mean, the types of services that they were going to propose aren't any different than what's already being offered there. And so subsequently, I followed up with a developer and who was not happy with my response, and suggested I go to the board and check their temperature on this, and see if you want to kind of push it a little bit harder to make this a eligible project, if indeed it moves forward.
Jim, is there room for a medical center there? Is the medical center there now kind of getting overcrowded? Or
this is a proposed new build down on a parcel located up Market Street. It's been vacant for a long, long time, and so this would be kind of a competing medical facility.
Is the hospital itself highly interested or pushing for this, or just a comment or question?
All I know, Joe, is that the developer said he had been approached by the hospital.
Doug's on the board. Doug, what did you say about it?
This has been discussed for quite some time. Obviously, the hospital's in business to attract customers, patients, and we've been talking about this for quite a while with the town supervisor, Brian Kale, who's also on the board of managers at the hospital. And it's been determined that, there's a good share of business that isn't being served in Attica right now. The current facility is an older facility. The physician who served that facility has now become a hospitalist at Wyoming County Community Hospital. So his practice is people would have to come to Warsaw to be served by another practitioner. So the idea was to place another physician in a different facility in Attica. So that's where it comes down to. It's a business decision as far as the health system is concerned. As I said, there's a significant group of potential customers who aren't being served by that facility, and it's no different than the hospital's strategic plan over the last several years. Either purchasing or building new facilities. Or most recent one was in Perry. There are 2 different facilities in Arcade. There's one in Warsaw, and now we're reaching out into Attica. There's also a facility in Cast Isle as well. So that's the game plan, and I was not aware of who the developer might be, but it's a viable operation. It's a viable enterprise.
But the existing medical situation in Attica is what, Doug? Do you know? I know that there is another doctor just over the line into Genesee County, is there not?
There is, but the physician who came to work for the hospital, who's now a hospitalist, had a very significant practice. And the patients there, much of this business is going to Batavia, to the hospital there. And we're trying to County Hospital here, Wyoming County Hospital is trying to maintain a share of this business. This will be probably like a one doctor, a one physician clinic, with the support staff. So it's not going to be a big building, but trying to maintain a presence in all 4 corners of the county. And there had been discussions with the current facility, and it was not fruitful.
That's the building across from the school, right? The high school?
That's correct.
And there's a physician's assistant in there now, isn't that correct?
I believe so.
Yeah. But the stumbling block, as I understand it, is that it would not fall within our usual gambit of business, according to council. Is that correct, Mr. Pierce?
Correct. And Kevin, feel free to weigh in if you choose to.
Yeah, this is a retail project, so there are limited exceptions to retail projects that an IDA can provide incentives for. Retail projects are generally not permitted under the IDA Act. If, however, the facility is providing goods and services that are not otherwise available within the municipality in which the project is located, then the IDA has the discretion to proceed with incentives for the project. So it really is a question of whether there are other goods and services available within that municipality.
So is that something that would have to be shown by the hospital that is involved in setting these things up?
They may be in a better position than the IDA to do that, Judge.
Well, actually, shouldn't the developer have, covered all this before asking for, IDA assistance?
Mm-hmm.
The hospital doesn't really have a dog in the fight. The hospital is talking to a developer about the potential of creating a facility, whether it's a brand new build or renovating an existing facility. So this really goes back onto the developer. You agree, Jim?
Yep. Well, like I said, when I was having a discussion with the developer, he was not pleased with the way the discussion was going. And I said, well, how about I just take it to the board and let's see what their feelings are about it. So, but he felt that without the incentives, this was a showstopper.
Okay.
Are there still some incentives available to such a project, Jim?
Only the 485B for a real property tax break. And that's a small portion of tax savings, but there wouldn't be any sales tax savings or mortgage recording tax savings.
After your conversation, did he indicate that he was going to pursue this further, or he just decided to back out? Or? He
indicated he was going to talk to his partner. This developer is locally based in Attica, and was going to talk to his partner about it, and then was going to wait for some feedback from me following this meeting.
Jim, can you refresh my memory on what 485B is? Because that's like a pilot, if I remember right.
Yeah, it's like a 45B is part of the real property tax law, and probably Kevin can cite it better than I can, but it's essentially a kind of a 5-year relief from taxes for new build or improvement projects that are going to be making investments of greater than $10,000. All they have to do to apply for that is fill out a 2-page form, and you submit it to the local assessor after the project is done.
And is that all the real property taxes? I mean, like if this was in the village, town, and county real property taxes?
Yes.
So it's similar really to what would be through the IDA, I believe. As far as, except it won't be like a 10-year or more.
Correct.
Well, I can speak to that a little bit. It is a 10-year exemption.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah, it's just the schedule is probably not as favorable as an IDA typical pilot schedule would be. Is that right, Jim?
Correct.
Yeah.
It's only like a 50% for the first 5 years or something like that.
Yeah, it's scaled.
I haven't looked at it in a while.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, your exemption schedule in the first year starts at 50%.
Okay.
And then it drops down to 5 in the last year of the pilot.
I mean, it's something.
Yeah.
So Jim and everyone else on the board, Becky, I know you've been at the last couple of meetings, as I have. I don't recall a discussion about engaging a developer to build a clinic or renovate a clinic. Do you? And I don't remember any formal, contract or anything coming out of the hospital board of managers meeting. I'm thinking this might be more of a fishing trip than anything else, because the last conversation we had, was about the existing clinic and maybe the potential of doing something else, but there was never anything formal decided on. Is
Yeah,
that
I
your
think
recollection as well?
it is. It seems like, was there something with the building where it is now?
It's not handicapped. It doesn't meet the handicap accessibility requirements
Right.
that have to be met. And I believe it was a USDA funded building.
Yeah.
And therefore, there's a certain set of requirements that have to be met, no matter what happens with the building as time goes on. So, yeah, and I believe, and it seems to me in conversations with Brian, that there were like 3 or 4 or 5 towns that owned the building when it was first built. And I think it was like Bennington, Middlebury, Attica, of course, maybe Sheldon. I'm not sure, I don't recall. But they were all, the building was sold to whoever the position or whoever the group was that's existing in the building now. And because I know in that conversation with Brian that he had received some funds from that sale, from their share of the ownership.
Right.
So the more I think about this and talk about it, I think it's more of a fishing trip, Jim, than anything else. I mean, there's been some talk, so maybe somebody grabbed onto it and said, hey, let's see what we can come up with, and you know, if there's an opportunity for you know, IDA incentive or a loan or whatever, why maybe that was it. But I really don't recall anything formal being done on this.
So my takeaway back to the developer would be bring something a little more formal.
And try to satisfy the legal condition that Kevin has outlined.
Okay.
Right.
With the assistance perhaps of the hospital, if that is possible. They must have some statistical data that available to them about what's happening as far as medical care in Attica itself.
Oh yeah, that's been done because that all went with the physician who left his practice in Attica and came to work as a hospitalist. So I know the number, I know the statistics, I know the CEO has the statistics. You know, I think it's on the developer. It isn't on to the hospital to provide any further information. That would be my recommendation.
Okay.
Okay, Jim, I think you have an idea of what the temperature is here anyway, and if you could pass that along.
Okay.
As gently as possible. I think we'll just leave it there.
All right, sounds good.
The next item is the IDA assistance concerning Beaver Hollow, and that is, I think this is the third. We got a letter that you attached, I think, from Mr. Snyder, and but maybe you could just go through real quickly how this has evolved, because it's changed as we have discussed it, as I understand.
Yeah, so we've been having discussions with the folks from Beaver Hollow going back to early summer. When the pandemic hit, they were forced to essentially close. Their revenue is virtually non-existent. The travel restrictions have prevented most of their clientele who come in from outside of New York from getting here. So they have started in the summer, started looking at ways, I think, that they could kind of reduce their costs given the shortcoming of the revenue. One of the things that they obviously looked at was their taxes that they're paying. They're currently under a pilot with 2 years remaining on the pilot out of a 10-year pilot. At the time in the summer, they argued with the IDA that really they should have got a tourism destination pilot instead of the conventional pilot that they got. But unfortunately, when they got their pilot, we did not have a tourism destination pilot, which was 15 years versus the 10. So at the time, they said, well, why don't you give us that additional 5 years on our pilot? And I think this board discussed that and thought that might be a viable option to look at. And then as things kind of evolved with their council, it kind of turned into this need for a brand new 15-year pilot. And to support the request for that, they provided us with an IDA application for showing a capital investment number of like $1 million, which was going to be primarily for some building renovations and a good chunk of dollars that they need to invest in with PPE. So subsequently, I had some discussions with the chairman, and I was kind of directed to go back and see, where we might be able to figure out a way to help these guys in order to keep them in business and not from closing. And we didn't get real far. There was a lot of just standing off. They stuck to their 15-year. We said, well, the IDA board may consider a 5-year. So just this past week, I got contacted by the owner of Beaver Hollow, and they are telling me that they are having some discussions with a partner that they cannot disclose yet what that partner is or what it may be turning into, but it could be something big. But one of the concerns that I raised to Beaver Hollow was we couldn't move forward with a project because they are in arrears on their pilot payments to both the county and the school. I told them it would not look right for a county public authority like the IDA to provide further incentives when they have not paid their back taxing obligations. They do not have the revenue to do that at this point, but that's what this letter addressed that I sent to the board. And if you scroll down, essentially they're saying they can make full payments later in the summer. And this letter was signed by Paul Snyder Sr. So that's kind of the summary of where we are. What they're saying is that, they would be happy with a 10-year pilot for a new project of $1 million. And they promised to make the pilot payments in the summer. And then this letter came yesterday, and I forwarded that. And I said, well, I will take it to the board and see what kind of direction the board wants to take. So I think that's where we are. And Kevin, if Kevin's been involved with this and if I've left everything off, let me know.
One thing that I was interested is they apparently signed some form of an agreement with the taxing authority there. And the last thing that I had heard is they had not performed their part of what the agreement required.
It was Town of Jay.
Yeah. And I was talking to Town of Jay, a supervisor, very informally. And she said, I wish they just pay their taxes. And that was a pretty simple answer. So I don't know if they have any money to do it.
Well, that was part of the negotiations for this project. They really wanted to significantly reduce down their taxing obligations to the point where the school district would get harmed, I think to the tune of like $70,000. This is unusual, but we brought all the taxing jurisdictions in on a meeting to discuss this proposal, told them about the potential impacts of what would happen. And the school was all right with a reduction, but the taxing jurisdictions wanted to make sure that the town of Java was going to be satisfied with the tax number, because for the town of Java, this is a significant taxing parcel for them. So there was an agreement that was drafted up between the town of Java and Beaver Hollow, a community host agreement, so to speak, that would keep them currently on the same level for taxes as where they are this year. So there wouldn't be any reduction to the town. And they were willing to sign that for a 5-year contract until the Beaver Hollow came back and said, well, we want 15-year. And so I asked the supervisors with town of Java how our board felt about it. And they felt that it would be a kind of undue harm to the other taxing jurisdictions for that long of a period of time. And so that piece, I think, is almost there, but not too, I don't think it's really palatable for a 15-year. Would a 5-year work? I think that town and all parties would go for that. But Beaver Hollow says 5 years won't do anything for them.
It won't do anything for us either. Excuse me.
But it's kind of been a moving target as we've gone through this. You get a different request from their attorney than what they've been talking about with everyone else.
Yeah, it's been very complicated and a little bit frustrating at times.
My thought is that maybe you should convey this to them and say that the movement has to be toward the 5 or something that's going to be comparable. That's where I'm coming from on it. Any other opinions or thoughts?
I think we got to consider moving on.
All right, well, as far as I'm concerned, you can relay our discussions at this meeting to them and let them proceed if they wish.
I think, given the fact that Wyoming County is the largest dairy producing county in New York State, and when the price of milk drops to like $10 a hundred, the farmers don't get a reprieve and pay their taxes later. So I think that's an important point to think about when we're making decisions regarding this. And I understand the importance of business, but fair is fair, and everybody should, be on the same level. Just a thought.
I second that.
Salt like years ago in Gainesville, remember?
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
All right, Jim, I think you have a pretty good idea where we're coming from as a group.
Right.
And I'd ask you to relay that to Beaver Hollow. And we're not trying to hurt them, and we'd like to help, but they can't dictate what they want at any given time, I don't think.
And also, Chairman, I believe they availed themselves to the PPP, the grant money probably that was out there. And maybe there'll be more assistance coming forward on that end for the business.
But the financial affairs are a little opaque, as we have learned
Right.
over the years.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great description, opaque. I love it.
You know what I'm talking about. Anyway.
I do, very well.
Okay, let us move along to 5C, and this is some good news.
Yeah, we've really made a lot of progress, and this isn't under the IDA heading. Obviously, this is a business center initiative because the IDA chose to kind of step back and wait to come in and help later. But the MK site in the village of Arcade, we did reach out with a expression of interest letter. I shared that with the board at the last meeting. We had 2 developers that were interested. One developer in particular has been very, very interested, to the point where they have come out here with the company owner, the owner of the development company came out, as well as some project development folks that work under him on 2 separate occasions. They called and asked me to come visit with them in Buffalo to explain the whole situation. And what they're proposing is that they would like the business center to take ownership of the property. Once the business center has ownership of the property, actually it's an LLC under the business center that we have formed. Once that LLC takes ownership of the property, the company is going to work with us on applying for an EPA grant for brownfield remediation. And they are very, very interested in seeing a redevelopment take place there, not just the demolition and cleanup. And they want to work with the village on what the village would like to see there. One of the things that we have talked about significantly as a redevelopment idea is market rate senior housing for this site. The other thing that I have done is I convinced the village to apply for kind of a market assessment for the entire village of Arcade to see what sort of other business development things that make sense and it would be logical for the village. Because I think these developers would like to do more than just one single reuse of the property. They'd like to maybe make it into a multi-use. So things look very positive at this point. I have shared with them all the environmentals. They have a staff person that they're very aggressive and ready to jump in and help wherever they can. The owner of the company met me at the door, gave me a fist bump. He says, "We really like this project. Let's get it done." So I'm really encouraged at this point. So my next step is to approach the business center board and see if we can convince them to have the LLC under the business center take ownership from the county, if the county is willing to give it up through the foreclosure. Any questions on that?
Jim, that's the most positive thing we've heard about that property in 25 years.
It would be a coup, I think, to get it done.
It's such a mess, it's terrible.
All right, I'll keep you posted on that as we progress.
All right. Bill, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
I can't see you.
You can't? Can everybody else see me?
I can see you.
Can hear you.
Okay, no, you gotta open your screen up to see everybody. There
you are. Full. Wow.
Now I see you.
On this screen, you're almost 5 foot tall.
Well, there you go. This is
just your head.
Thank you. That's what I thought you were saying. I'll go on. Jim, was that your whole report there?
No, I didn't give a report yet.
Oh,
okay.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. You can go.
All right. Well, first of all, this is my last board meeting, so I'd like to thank the board. I think you folks do a wonderful job. And the sad part is I attended the IDA Fall Academy back in the middle of November. And a major chunk of it was about all the IDA legislation coming down the pike. And some of you have heard some of this, but it is in the vernacular, it ain't good. I've got copies of these presentations. They had lawyers from 3 different law firms who took all these Senate bills that are proposed right now. And so each of the 3 lawyers took a different part, and a couple of parts were like really long because it's so complex what they're thinking of doing. Let me give you the highlights, and I really consider these as lowlights. And Kevin, I don't know how much you've been looking at this stuff, but chime in you feel the need here, please. But first of all, they're going to try to get all elected officials off IDA boards. There'll be no municipal officials in your county will be allowed to serve on IDA boards. So that would eliminate Doug and Becky immediately. And they seem that's come up before and it's coming up again. They're actually going to look and if board members make certain misstatements, they're actually going to be subject to perjury. I don't know how deep or how horrible it is to commit the perjury, but these are just the crazy things coming along. They also, the ABO will have the ability to actually remove board members if they feel that they're acting in bad faith. They're looking at maybe a mandatory clawback unless it's far beyond the agency's control. So, you know, this is a horrible thing when, especially in economic times like these, you know, somebody puts out the money in, they've hired the people, they've put the machinery in the facilities, and you get a huge economic downturn. And now they've got to fire 7 of the 10 people they hired. You got to go claw back their benefit. So this is just a mandatory clawback. So this is how harsh this stuff is. There's a senator, you've heard me use this guy's name before. He's a senator down in the Hudson Valley named Skoufis. And he is basically writing general municipal law as it relates to IDAs. And he's throwing a bone, like they took away civic facilities bonds from IDAs a while ago, and they're going to add that back, but it's going to be with all the other crap they're loading on IDAs. So what? That you've got this ability because so much of the other stuff is so onerous, you might not be able to function fully. They want to add grant and loan powers to IDAs, which IDAs have been begging for forever, along with restoring civic facilities bonds. But a deal like the deal to put this building together would become illegal. I'm sitting in my office at the Ag and Business Center. So they're going to see very arm's length transactions between developers and municipalities and IDAs. But some of the really crazy stuff they're going to do, they're looking to have a 5-year cap on all pilots and bonds issued by IDAs. Why would you have them? I mean, this is crazy stuff. And the prevailing wage, which we know by current law goes into effect on January 1st of 2022. So basically you got 3 weeks or 2 weeks in a year to get your ID, like the deal down in Arcade on the Holiday Inn. And Jim's been working very hard on this. And this is a spectacular project. But they're thinking that they want to put a bill out that would accelerate prevailing wage right with this whole next legislation. That would be when would it get done? June, July of next year, instead of waiting till January 1st of 2022. As soon as they can make this a law, they'd add prevailing wage on projects that take benefits. They also want to say any UTEPs will now be, they have to be fully approved by the taxing jurisdictions, just not the board of the IDA. That could be a tough one, depending on what environment you're in and how you get along with your school districts. They're going to really heavily crack down on LDCs, and I don't know what more that means other than that was what one of the attorneys said. They want to have a labor representative on all boards. They may make that mandatory. They're also going to put a representative of a school district in the service area of the IDA. You're going to have to get a school district representative on your IDA board. They're also gender balance. They're going to, we've talked about this for 2 years, but this is another one they're set on doing. that it will be a 50-50 gender balance. I don't know if that means as you add new members or you've got to reconstitute your existing board to 50-50, which is kind of, it sounds crazy. How do you get 50-50 on boards that are all odd numbers so you can break a tie? I mean, that's crazy. I could go on, but you all have the gist of it. I have copies of those presentations. If anybody would like them, I can get them to Jen, and Jen could get them to you. But it's just, it never stops. It just never stops. And I made this statement. I don't know if I made it publicly at this board meeting before, but the worst thing that could happen in New York State, I thought, was the Democrats take New York State Senate. That was the worst thing until what just happened in the last election. They now have 42 members in the New York State Senate. And so what that means is they now have a super majority. So even Cuomo, in a lucid moment, they can override his vetoes. So think about that. Both the Assembly and the Senate have super majorities of Democrats, and they can override vetoes by the governor. So again, it's a cheery way to go. I hate to go out with those notes, but the other thing, the Restore New York for the hotel, they're down to they're doing the last things. The village has turned in everything with the disbursement agreement of the money. So as soon as Indus gets paperwork back to the village, the check's basically been cut and approved. They're just waiting for the final okay on the paperwork that the village has to turn in to get the $1 million. So that's doing great. I guess the last thing is, you've all heard me talk about all this new climate rules and regulations in New York State. And I'll just remind everybody again, the area of the law called 94C. This basically is going to give New York State NYSERDA will become just like a developer of wind and solar projects. And they're going to basically have roughshod over all the towns. And it kind of says you can protest at towns, but don't worry, because if it's a really good project that's in the parameters of all our climate goals, we're going to do it anyhow. That's cutting through all the nonsense. And they've got the new ORI's, Office of Renewable Energy Services, or siting, and all these rules and regs are being put together. But I think and I just took a survey yesterday about this, because I'm still my last day tomorrow on the NISAC Climate Resiliency Committee. And my last thing that I put in as a comment or recommendation was, please make sure that when NYSERDA is in there acting as a developer, that they go to IDAs for the pilot agreements. And I've questioned them on this repeatedly, and anytime I could do it on all these Zoom meetings about all this stuff. And oh no, we're gonna work with IDAs. Oh, no problem. We're gonna work with IDAs. So God bless us if they do, because if they don't, that means they'll go to the towns, they'll go to the schools, and they'll go to the county individually, which it makes no sense whatsoever. And they can really screw it up. It's in their best interest to deal directly with the IDAs. So I guess that's it, other than a couple I get to editorialize a little bit. I think this board is a great board, and I think you have a chance to do so many great things. But the reason that you can do those is the staff that you have at the IDA. I think Jim does a spectacular job. Certainly Robin and Jen are great at what they do, and I mean that. And I think Robin, I've watched people go through this complicated, all these grants and the things that she has to deal with, and she knows them dead cold. So I think you're all in great hands, and it's been my delight to work with the IDA for these past 6 years and I don't know, 4 or 5 months. So thank you.
Bill, we want to thank you too and meet at some time so we can present you with your ceremonial gold watch, which will be accompanied by some beverages of your choice. But you've done a great job. We thank you. And I have one question.
Sure.
You sent me a list of all the legislation. What you have now, is this more elaborate than what you sent? You sent that a couple months ago to me.
Well, this was off of that IDA Academy Day that NYSEDC put on. And no, these are different. They're from 3 different law firms. They broke down, they give you the numbers in the Senate and the Assembly if they have an assembly number. They tell you what it's about, and they break down the good, the bad, and the ugly kind of. And it's basically very little good and a lot of ugly. But I've got those. I can get, you want me to get those to you?
Yeah, if you could send them, I appreciate it.
Okay, I'll get those to Jen, and then Jen can get them to you.
And I mean it about the beverages, not so much about the watch.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story. My wife reminded me, her dad died at a young age when he was 60, and my mother-in-law remarried this wonderful guy named Ed Morris. And Ed had been a career-long aerospace engineer for Bell up in Buffalo. And he moved down to Jamestown when he married the mother-in-law. And Ed was a great, big, tall, lanky guy. And what makes me think of the watch and a beverage is on 2 different occasions in this 5 years before the poor guy died of a heart attack, we were at cocktail parties, and I said, "Hey, Ed, what time is it?" And with a Manhattan in his left hand, he went like this to look at his watch twice and put the drink on his feet. So, Judge, that was my reference when you said I'm getting a gold watch.
All right, thank you. Yeah, sincerely, thank you. All right, Jim, I cut you off on your report. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, not a problem. I just want to let the board know the JC equipment project in which the board approved. This is a former Broder site. The bank closed their financing, and we closed our inducements with them on December 8th of this week. So that project is all put to bed and ready to go. I asked him when they were going to get started on the new build. He indicated that they're behind on a couple construction projects because of the lack of lumber. But once they get caught up on those buildings, he plans on starting on his building in February. So that one's finally done. Bill mentioned the Arcade Hotel project. I had a communication with the developer, the president of the company. He's still giving me his commitment that the project's going to move forward for the spring. The TTI Light Industrial Company over in Perry, I still work with them on a regular basis on a new build that they want to do up at the racetrack where they own property. I want to let the board know we closed on the $100,000 loan to the Arcade and Attica Railroad, so that check is in their pocket now. I met with a new machine company in Attica called Integrity Tool and Machine. He's a little one-man machine shop located on West Avenue, renting a building from Frank Bork, just a small little space. Looks like he's getting ready to purchase some additional equipment. He's got quite a few contracts lined up. He's more of a small niche machine shop, so I think he's onto something because he can do turnarounds and fast runs. But I think he's going to be coming in for some financing. I don't know if it'll be the Business Assistance Corporation or the microloan, but he wants to buy some more equipment. Just a young guy. His girlfriend or his fiance's mother is the operator of Theo's Restaurant and Arcade. Doug, I don't know if you know.
Yeah, I don't know. I know who she is. I don't know them.
Yeah.
Jim, I just wanted to caution you about the Arcade Hotel project.
Yep.
Let's make sure we know which Arcade Hotel we're talking about.
That's a good point. Good point. Let's call it the Holiday Inn project.
Okay, that's perfect.
The solar projects are slowly moving forward, but just an update on where the number of them that we have. The most recent one is one that I talked with this week called Sun East Solar Project. As you remember, Geronimo Energy was going to build two side-by-side solar projects and try to treat them as separate and keep them under the requirements for getting into the more regulated siting of these projects. So, but they were forced eventually to sell one of their projects. And so this company called Sun East Highview Solar, based out of Connecticut, bought it, and they're moving forward with their 17.5 acres of, or 17.5 megawatts of electricity. Silver Lake Solar is the sister project that used to be owned by Geronimo. Geronimo's out of the picture now. They've been bought out. So that project is going to be 24.9 megawatts. Delaware River and Pike, there's still 4 small projects moving forward down there, 12.6 megawatts. And then there's still discussions about the Big Tree Solar Project in Bennington and Sheldon. It would be 175 megawatt. The chairman and I had a discussion about a project being kicked around in Attica called Maplewood Solar. This is a small megawatt project. It's only 4.25 megawatts. Instead of coming to the IDA and getting, us to deal with the pilot and not having to deal with all the taxing jurisdictions independently, they at this point have decided to approach each municipal taxing jurisdiction and work out a pilot or an arrangement with them. The thing that I'm not sure that they fully understand, and I communicated to them through an email, was that under the 487 law, which is where they're trying to site this project, the taxing jurisdictions have the option to opt out of the program. Thus, they would have to pay their taxes. In this case, where this project's going to be proposed in Attica, the Attica School District is dropped out of the program, so they would have to pay taxes to the school if they move forward. I talked to Bryce Thompson, the school superintendent. They're not going to opt back in for this one small project. So I'm not sure where the project will end up, but I said we're here if they want to come talk about it. So that's where the solar projects are at this point. We're still waiting for the regional project that we worked on with Eric and Scott with the chamber about some special funds for tourism and recreation businesses for the region, the Finger Lakes region, because they've really been hurt the hardest. So that project is still pending. And then just some really quick updates on the business center, the Restart Loan Program, that we set up a $10,000 maximum loan program for people that needed money because of the COVID. We put $20,000 aside. We've loaned up $59,000 to date. We have two new programs that were started up under the business center, kind of COVID related, but also entrepreneurship focused. One's called the Business Accelerator Academy, where businesses that are operating need that additional technical assistance to move forward and grow where they want to be. So that's a program we're going to start in the spring and run it side by side with a fast track program. We also established a new program called the Business Mentorship Program. So if businesses like during COVID have been struggling, trying to figure out how they can diversify or find new markets, we have a business mentor that's going to be working with them. We're going to pay the business mentor to advise and consult companies that have been affected by COVID. And then of course, we run our fast track program. We wrapped up the fall session, had a full class to begin with, but then the pandemic picked a few of them off. But we still ended up with 5 that graduated from the in-person program. Those business concepts were an elderly community living center. The idea was to maybe set up something like that in the former Sheldon Elementary School, where a husband and wife could both live there. Maybe their one spouse has dementia, so people there could care for the patient or the spouse with dementia while the husband went out and played golf or something. It was just kind of a community-based living arrangement that they thought would be really helpful. It's kind of a neat idea, I thought. We also had a bait shop concept, a company or small business that wants to do primitive camping. And then a company or arcade gal that wants to do a bakery and coffee shop. And then the last one was a gentleman that organizes and sponsors and sets up outdoor group sporting events. So that's what the business center is up to. I think sometimes it's important for the IDA board, since we administer that program, to know what that group is up to as well. So that's my report.
All right, I thank you. The next item would be item 8. And I was talking with Jim today and earlier. Jim furnished me with what we've had in the last few years, a history of the compensation of our staff. And also I have done some very preliminary research about other things that have gone on in Wyoming County. I also wondered if we went into executive session, if the written material that he gave me would be available, and to what extent. I'm a little unclear how that would happen now. The net result is I would request that we table this until our next meeting, and I, being old-fashioned, will see to it that the paperwork that I have is mailed to you. So you have a copy showing you exactly what I'm talking about, and we're not putting this stuff out to the public in any way. And I'm not sure mechanically how to do it with Zoom. I'm sure there's a way to do it, but I think it would be simpler for us to look at this and, if necessary, make it any determination retroactive to this meeting, if that's the will of the board. So I would like to make a motion to basically consider this compensation for next year at our next meeting, which is January 14th. Is there any discussion? Do I have a second for that motion?
I'll second that, Joe G.
All right. All right. Is there anybody who opposes the motion? All right. Motion is granted. We will consider this on January 14th under the terms and conditions that I just set forth. Okay. Is there any further business?
Mr. Chairman, I just have one thing for the board to consider. Usually at this meeting, we set up our schedule for the following year so that we can advertise and do our legal publications. I was wondering if the board wants to consider sticking to the same schedule for meetings, meeting on the second Thursday of every month at 2:30.
I think it's worked pretty well, except when it interferes with my extracurricular activities. But we really haven't had any problem doing that for as long as I've been around.
Okay.
Does anybody else have a different thought? Okay, let's go ahead with a second Tuesday at 2:30, right?
Very good.
Okay. If there's no further business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. Does anybody object to adjourning? Okay. Motion is granted. Let us move then to the next meeting.
Mr. Chairman, you're going to have to give me time to turn off the TV and then turn it back on. And before I do that, I just want to say thank you to Bill. It's been good working with you. So
Yes, Bill. We will have to get together.
Well, Judge, I'm going to hold you to that because I actually owe you a cocktail. I've written it down. I can't remember. I think it's like called you to a meeting that didn't happen and you drove in from Attica one day. So I owe you. Yeah.
Good.
No, I'll go down to Walmart and get that gold watch.
Joe, don't go over $15.
All right.
I'm going to take off right now. So thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
Thank
Enjoy
you, Bill.
Hey, Billy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
all right, stay
See ya,
tuned,
Bill.
Mr. Chairman.